Welcome back, guys. This is Joe with Steel Blade Woodworks, and this is going to be an overview on the installation of the Grizzly G0441 3 horsepower Cyclone dust collector. But before we begin, I want to make a disclaimer and just say that I am in no way sponsored by Grizzly or any of the tools that you saw in the previous videos. All these tools were purchased with my own money, and I'm doing these installations to try to help y'all out if y'all are, in the market to purchase one of these videos and see what kind of issues I came up against doing this from the beginning of receiving the item to the final product installed on the wall. So anyhow, all that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, so if you followed through the videos, you didn't get to see this portion done. It's basically straightforward. This filter comes in a separate box when they ship you this Cyclone. It came damaged, and it took 3 attempts, and I finally got one that was undamaged. And Grizzly I've got other equipment too, so they have issues with their shipping companies. I think they resolved it now, from what I hear, but their customer service is excellent. I'll give you that. They work with you and get the problem solved. You just have to suffer along with the time it takes to go through that process. So there's really no setup that has to be done. You pull this out of the box and you add these brackets, and you're seeing this installed in a different way than what the manual shows or what you see online. And I had to do that for a reason, and I'm going to try to explain it to you why. Other than that, I mean, it's straightforward. There's really nothing that out of the ordinary, just some of the directions you got to kind of read through to figure out what's going to best suit your installation. So, and read through it just to figure out what needs to be done in some of the steps. But anyhow, so you're seeing this, and I want to start off with this, get this out of the way. I felt that I didn't describe this good enough when we went through the wall video. So I'm just kind of giving you an inside look on the inside of that plywood wall. This would be my girders that hold the tin to the barn, and these would be my wall studs. So basically what I did was built a studded wall in between these two 6x6 posts. And when I set that in, this isn't the exact L bracket I used, it's just a little longer. But what I did, once I attached these, when I made the wall, the stud wall, I can't get in there. I could toenail it, I just didn't want to take the chance of a nail going, once it hits into the wood, hitting and going through my tin. So what I did was I attached the wall on both ends to the 6x6, and I came back with some proper length wood screws, and I put these L brackets, hopefully you can see this, in between here and attached it to the 2x4 and the wall girder. In my deal of doing this, because this has so much pull from up here, it just gives it more stability so this wall wouldn't try to tend to bow, because this does weigh quite a bit. And that was mine. Do you have to do it? No. The plywood and all that would have held it, but this was just my way of just going a little bit further to make sure that we weren't going to have a problem. So I just wanted to explain that part and just kind of give you an idea of what's behind that wall. And let me grab a board here. So basically, where that 2x12 is, what I went ahead and did, I went a little further too. On the other side of the brackets, well, before I put the brackets in, let me just back up. I double studded that wall and screwed in from the sides and attached to other studs going the full length of that wall down, okay? And then I came in and I braced with an L bracket on both sides. And that just further just gave that wall more integrity, because again, that is a lot of weight. And if you do get one, you will see what I'm talking about. So that's that. Let me get this out of the way here. Okay, one of the other issues, well, let's just start off with this here, okay? These L brackets that you see here are supposed to be mounted or installed on this out port. They go on the outside of this. The way that I mounted this dust collector, this filter would have hit the wall. In the instructions, it doesn't say to compensate for that. It can be mounted that way. You're gonna have to learn, well, you won't now because I'm explaining it to you, that when you mount this collector or this housing to the wall on this end, it brings this port closer to the wall. So that being said, this will hit the wall, so I had to do it this way. So what I had to do was, they send this part in a smaller, shorter piece. I had to order this part from Grizzly just to be able to get this exhaust to reach the way I want to do it. Some guys have come in and popped new holes in the housing here and went ahead and used this mounting surface and then put the other bracket here. You can do it that way. I just didn't want to do it. So this is the way I did it. And what was the other item is, if you do put it on this side, you won't have no worries. If you were to mount this side of the housing against the wall, everything would fit correctly. You wouldn't have to worry. The other part that I ran into, and there'll be some steel shots in the video, you'll see that in between, on this flange back here, when I mounted this dust collector in this orientation, this whole Cyclone part is further pushed, it's pushed out further. It's basically against this flange. So it makes it further away from the wall. So there's an L bracket that's included in the kit. I'm gonna give you an example. It's about so big, roughly about the same size. And what it does, it's made to go, if we can, I'm just gonna give you an example here if y'all can see it. So say this is your back wall, and that's that 2x10 right here that you see. This would be the 2x10. This bracket's made to go in this orientation, and it goes tied to these bolt holes through that bolt. And what it does, if you can get a shot, if you can see it, it just stabilizes this Cyclone. It gives it support from swaying in and out. The whole weight of this Cyclone is supported on that 2x12. If you're gonna go into an existing wall, I would make sure, I mean, the instructions say you can. They do stress that you need to make sure it's very, a good built wall to support that weight. It's heavy. Will it pull it down? I don't know. That might be an option if you're in a garage where you can bust the sheetrock off and get to it and just do some modifications maybe, and then re-sheetrock it. That's an option, just to make sure that your wall is rigid to hold it. This bottom board really is just to keep this Cyclone from swaying in and out. It really does not hold no weight. The weight is supported up there on this fan housing. When you do mount this in this orientation, there's 3 bolts on this back side of this flange. You can get to the bottom bolt and the top bolt. The middle bolt, you can't because it's right up against the wall. So what you have to do is you can come around on this side of the housing. There is proper clearance to get in there, and this is why I have this. You'll have to get you some long extensions, and you can get your socket and put some tape in there just to kind of hold that bolt. Shove that bolt in from this back side, and go ahead and put your lock washer nut on the other side. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's going to be the opposite direction of the other ones, but who cares? You're going to be able to cinch it down. If you have help, somebody can push the bolt through from this side if you want. I didn't have none. That's why I did it the way I did it. And you can try to maneuver a nut on a socket and do it so it matches, but the easiest way is put the bolt from this other side out, and then you get your hardware on there. So that was one of the other problems that I ran into. Other than that, just follow the instructions on all these attachments. It takes, you know, foam. It's this weather stripping they provide, and it's different sizes. So there's grooves in here on the inside of this hose where this will go, and it's everywhere. You'll know when to put it on there, and that just makes an airtight seal on it. There's some here, takes it here. Everywhere where a hose attaches, it's going to take this foam. Don't forget to put it on the inside of this. There's a cylindrical housing that goes and attaches to this blower housing. You do need to use at least medium Loctite, because you can't get to it, and if that thing comes loose after a while of it running, you're going to end up having to take this all apart to get in there and reattach it. And on the inside of that cylindrical, on the top side, on the flange, you have to put some of this foam sealant. And you'll see, per the instructions, it doesn't have a groove, it just tells you where to set it. So when it does mate up to the bottom side of this blower housing, it seals, and then you use your bolts with your Loctite and cinch it up. That's the only place that requires Loctite. It's just because you won't have access to it anymore. These, in between these two flanges and this upper flange, there's a big rubber gasket. Same thing, same one, they're not different. Just make sure you put those in per instructions. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, as this sits right here with this double barrel, you have the option to where you don't have to use that top portion of this barrel. And this will bring the overall height of this machine down to where you can get it under 8 foot. You need to go in, if you're considering getting it, look at the instructions online, pull the PDFs, and just double check your height. Do your research and make sure it's going to fit how you want it. As it sits just like this, height-wise, you're looking at about 109 inches from the top of that motor fan housing down to the floor. Other than that, that's just one of the main things that I've had some people ask on overall height. If you're going to use that top portion of that barrel, it's going to give you more capacity to for chips, and you won't have to empty that bag out very often. This does require a 40 amp circuit for power or a breaker, but that's something that you need to contact an electrician, and if you don't have that type of power, consult a professional and get them to figure out what can be done, if it's even possible to run something like this in your shop. Other than that, You might be asking why I did this and why I went through all this. Well, the layout of my shop, I wanted to put this filter on this side and have my piping kick out in this direction because I didn't want it going along that wall, because I don't know if you can see, but there's a stairway that goes up to top storage, and it would have just been in the way. And this is just gonna fit the piping the way I want to route it to the other portions of the shop to pick up my other equipment is gonna work the best. So this is another thing on here, is that this upper portion, you can turn and manipulate this. The bolt pattern will allow you, and I contacted Grizzly and their tech support said that it would. It's fine to where you can aim this part in any direction you want. So however you want your pipe to take off, you're able to do that. It's not gonna affect anything. It's a pretty cool little deal there to where, to allow you to get your piping going to the right direction you want. This, I used a 2x10, not knowing from the get-go that I thought that that was gonna support your weight. The instructions say you can use a 2x6, so you can use it. I used a 2x10 to give me a little bit of leeway, just in case I was off on my measurement, but I thought it was also gonna be holding a tremendous amount of force or weight, so I went a bigger size. It's overkill. That top part, you don't want to cut no corners. That's where all your supports, where all your support for this whole machine is off that 2x12. Other than that, besides having this little problem getting this part in, I'm very happy with the machine, the construction of it. It's very well built. I haven't hooked it up yet. I'm working on that. We just, you know, got to go to work first before we get to play, because this is not a full-time deal for me. I do this part-time, kind of like a hobby. We used to build stuff to sell, but we got away from that for a while for other reasons, and now I kept all my equipment, and I'm building my dream shop now, so this is done when I have time. And I've been wanting one of these for a while. If you can see, I started off with smaller dust collectors at my old shop, and this is a new barn that I got built. And I kind of wanted to do a little bit on these kind of collectors here, these bag collectors, because I see a lot of people talking about them online. This is a 1 horsepower, okay? Yes, you can go and buy collectors from Harbor Freight. I have a Harbor Freight. That's what I used for the longest time, 2 horsepower collector. This 1 horsepower doesn't have enough power. You can put a small little Cyclone, there's many of them out there on the market, to hook to one machine, but this is not ideal to hook up to any kind of piping. You can, it just better not be long, but you're really gonna be let down, because 1 horsepower just doesn't have enough. And there'll probably be people that say I'm wrong, you know, but this is my opinion from what I've gone through in the past. These bag collectors, and it goes for all of them, the more you hook up to them, the performance is gonna drop. By adding a Cyclone to it is not gonna make this thing suck stronger. You're defeating the purpose. They're not strong enough, but it'll work. A 2 horsepower, like I said, I used it for a long time. And I had 4-inch sewer pipe hooked up to it, but I controlled that system with gates. And I would shut certain things off, and so I could get the power to draw that dust or chips, whatever you want to call it, from that certain machine. But again, I had that on a external Cyclone with piping, and it worked, served its purpose. Does it get everything out? No. Are you still gonna have dust? Yes. Am I gonna still have dust with this? Yes. This is not gonna be 100% fix all. I still gotta do other stuff in here. I gotta hang some filtration, because the dust that's gonna harm you is not what's visible. It's small particles. And I've seen a lot of things online. I didn't really believe it back in the day when I first started doing all this, and but you know, once you get to know more people online, researching, a lot of things come up, and it makes you a believer. Hence the reason that I bought this. This is gonna help out a lot stronger, allow me to use bigger piping. In the videos that we'll shoot after this, you'll see that I'm gonna start off with 6-inch, the green sewer pipe, and it's gonna go 6-inch all the way to the machines, and I'm gonna try to run very little 4-inch, as least as possible, just to be able to get that draw coming into the, you know, the airflow. So that's why I put this out here. I see a lot of people talking about it, and this little machine, this little collector here, it's good. I can go and hook it up, pull it around. It's on a mobile cart for a reason, to hook it up, and it'll work. One machine, fine, it's 1 horsepower. The 2 horsepower, I'm not gonna knock it. I used it, they're good. If it's done correctly, try to avoid sharp 90s in your piping, and that goes for this thing. You can't do a sharp 90 in a run, it's gonna kill your flow. You gotta do gradual turns to allow that flow to keep flowing correctly. But yeah, so the next part is gonna be, is probably running, getting the piping going, because the next video I'll probably shoot is going to be on a CNC that's coming in, and I'm gonna have to get that set up. And I'm still debating, it's on the far end of the shop, and I'm probably gonna run it, collect it off of this. Some people will say, well, why wouldn't you? It's on the other end of the shop, and I think I don't know, I may utilize that 2 horsepower and put it there, piped in, just directly to that machine, and just let it run off of that. I haven't made my mind up yet what I'm gonna do, and go from there, you know. So I hope y'all enjoyed the videos. I hope that y'all gain some knowledge, and it'll help you make your decision choosing one of these. If you have any questions, please comment. Tell me if you like it, if you don't, what, you know, I'm always up for suggestions. I mean, that's what this is all about. I've just started shooting this video, doing this YouTube stuff, so I'm trying to learn how to do the editing, and it might not be, if you probably watch some of the stuff, it may not be as good as some of these other guys that are doing it, but, you know, got to start somewhere. That being said, hope you like it. Please subscribe, and let us know what you think. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. If you have a comment, you need an answer, I'm always willing to help. Try to give you the best opinion, or the, you know, that I have to do this. I've been doing woodworking for a while. I'm not saying that I'm professional at all. I know stuff, and I learn stuff every day. That's what you got to keep your mind open when you're doing this stuff. Don't try to be a know-it-all. Learn, keep your mind open, learn from other people. I learn stuff every day, and that's good. You put that toward your trade, and it helps you grow. Don't be closed-minded. And with that being said, we're gonna shut it off here, and hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all have a nice day. Thank you.